Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show, and this is kind of something of an extra episode. This is a make-up episode because we missed an episode last week, so you're getting this one as well. This week is a bonus.
Please don't be mad at us.
Yeah.
Here's another episode.
Yeah. Well, don't be mad at Tim. It's all Tim's fault. We'd be doing episodes daily if I had my way.
The fate worse than death.
No, I kid. I think October, when we were doing like 5 a week, was just about killing me. I think there's something to be said for 2 or 3, but 4 and 5 was like, oh, like, timing for that was a bit rough. But hey, so yeah, what are we talking about this episode? We're talking about a movie called Stillborn, which is listed as 2017 on IMDb, but it's actually a 2018 movie in the sense that it had a a festival release or whatever in 2017, but it was released to the public in pretty much every way possible in 2018. And this is a there you go.
Released sounds too kind. It seems like this is more like unleashed onto the public.
This is a supernatural horror movie about a new family, a couple who have just had a baby. They were supposed to have twins, but one is stillborn, hence the title of the movie. And then supernatural shit happens to the mother when the husband's out at work, and that's the film. So we'll start spoiler free as we always do, and we'll give you a warning before we dive into spoilers. And I'll get the question out of the way. Tim,
yeah,
did you enjoy Stillborn?
No, of course not. This movie is so bad. So I thought it would be funny to talk about it because it's kind of like, I feel like this is like a greatest hits of all the stuff we usually complain about in movies.
Every trope, every single cliche.
Yeah. It's like, what do we not like you can find in this movie? Like, bad CGI, ghosts, nonsensical plot lines that lead nowhere, bad exposition, bad acting.
Really bad acting. Here's the things that were really sticking out to me was just all the beats playing out. It was like, okay, the wife is seeing scary things, husband doesn't believe her, goes to a therapist, does the research scene where she's looking up stuff and we see things in the computer.
That's my favorite. Like, it is such like a cliche at this point where it's like, this really weird specific things happen to me, but oh look, I have all the exact answers on Google, and then it's like one part research, one part, oh, I just found this weird person that had the same thing as me. Let me go talk to this like weird secluded hermit. Yep.
We get that scene where she goes and talks to the old lady who went through the same thing, apparently.
And I think we'll talk about it more in spoiler section, but that scene is like crazy to me.
Did you know it's funny? Because I feel like the hope with a movie like this that's really bad is that maybe it'll at least be funny bad. And there was 1 or 2 moments towards the end that were funny bad, but most of it is just really freaking boring.
Yeah, it's super dull. I don't know. I want to believe that there were problems like on a script level or something, or on a shooting level, because like it just seems like it's really going in different directions. Like it doesn't really, even as like a cliche movie, it kind of seems like it doesn't know what it wants to be. And like, because there's like stuff that pops up that is just like, oh, why is this character acting like this now? Like this is kind of out of nowhere. And oh, is this gonna affect something later? Like no.
And also it doesn't really commit to what its ending's supposed to be. Like it has this ambiguous ending, but it feels more like, oh, they were going for this cool, was it this or was it that? But really, it just kind of feels like they didn't know how to end it.
Oh yeah.
That's what it feels like. Also, a more general spoiler-free complaint here is that I honestly think these are the least charismatic actors I've ever seen. They're not actually the worst actors, because you compare it to Birdemic in The Room and whatever, because they're not bad enough to be funny. That's the problem. Yeah. They're really, really bad, but they're not over that line into funny territory. They're just really, really bland. But the bigger problem I have is that they're lacking so much charisma, right? They're in a deficit of charisma. That they were so uninteresting. I didn't care about them. I didn't want to I was desperate for them to kill off the characters. Like, oh, this is just kidding. This is just a prologue. We're going to skip to this other family later on. No, never happened.
Yeah, there was the main female lead. I don't think she was necessarily a bad actress, but there was like one or two moments where she had a really weird line reads that did make me laugh. Like I it's actually been a while. Like I think it's actually been about like a week or so since I watched the movie. So um, my memory on some of the specific lines are a little hazy. But yeah, there was like a few times where I was like, "That's an interesting take." Like it made me laugh.
Yeah, she. I mean, the husband's really bad as well, but we see way more of her because the husband's constantly going away to work and work trips and whatnot. So we're left with her a lot of the movie. In fact, speaking of things I hate in horror movies, can you think of a single good horror movie that revolves around a baby?
I mean, would you count Rosemary's Baby?
No, because most of that's when she's pregnant. I'm thinking more like, oh no, it's a scary haunted house movie, but with the baby is the main sort of driving force of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. No, I would say like this movie, I feel like is really wants to be like Insidious or like even like that first Annabelle movie. It kind of reminded me of.
Annabelle. That's the one that came to my mind. Like, see when she was like, running around trying to save her baby, I was like, oh, this is just Annabelle. Like, I'm getting Annabelle vibes of this.
Which usually makes you happy, but in this case, it wasn't as well done as that masterpiece.
Shut your filthy mouth, Tim. Don't be spreading lies. But yeah, so
it's unoriginal. It's boring. It's really not well done on, I think, any level.
Yeah, no, there's no levels. Like,
I hate to be harsh, but
like it's technically proficient. Like it technically looks and sounds like a movie. So I when I'm rating it later on, I can't go like to the bottom numbers too far, but it is just so unbelievably bland and uninspired. Like I feel like just calling it not original feels too kind to it, because not original to me is like, okay, so we watched a slasher movie and the guy went around with a mask killing kids. Okay, sure, it's not original, but it still works. It's still fine. It's fun or whatever. This just feels like this uninspired list of like cliches and tropes from, and it's the type of horror movie that I'm kind of sick of seeing now. Like I feel like the supernatural genre, and there's still good ones. I still like seeing good ones, but I feel like these bad ones have been so, persistent this last 5 years that I'm just like, come on, like.
Yeah, it is time for a change. Like we need better bad movies.
We need better bad movies. That's a perfect way to put it. We need a better class of bad movie. Yeah. Jeez. So the crutch of the movie is that she is obviously they're upset about the death of the son, the second kid, and they're kind of dealing with that. Oh, a while Michael Ironside appears, by the way. He's in the movie. He's a therapist in this movie.
Oh yeah.
That was a shocking surprise when he popped up, playing someone who's not like I was expecting almost the twist for it to be a twist where he was really the demon. Or something like that, because he's Michael Ironside. You don't just cast him as the calm, intelligent therapist. You want more punch from Michael Ironside. But so she's dealing with that, and she starts to see things like hear weird messages on the baby monitor, and then she thinks it's broke, so they buy a fancy new one with a camera. In fact, eventually the husband installs cameras all around the house just so he can keep an eye on things while he's on his business trip. But so all this is going on. And the movie kind of builds up to this idea where, is this real or is she just hallucinating and seeing things? And it's so obvious in its setups as to how all this is going to work. And like, there's the neighbor mother who she kind of befriends, who's kind of attractive, and she sees him talking to the husband at one point, and she starts to feel like, oh, maybe he's going to cheat on me. With the, because in fact at one point when she's talking to the neighbor, what's her name, Rachel, she even says at one point like, oh, you guys don't like have sex with other people outside your marriage? That's just like masking your primal instincts. The idea that she's got an open marriage. So again, everything's like built into her being suspicious of this, and it's just you know where it's going to go. The whole thing's going to be, oh, it looks like she's putting the baby in harm's way, because to everyone else it looks like she's leaving the baby trapped in a room with running water. She's leaving the baby trapped in here with something else, or. And it's just like, I know what this is doing. I'm bored. I'm waiting for it to go through the motions so that I can just turn it off. Please hurry. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so it's so tough to get through. Like, it feels like well done. Like you can do that story if it's compelling and interesting, but with everything being so bland and cliche and stuff, that there's no like tension to it. You don't feel anything for the characters. You really don't care like what's gonna happen. It is definitely a all right, let's get through it kind of movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways it could have been saved if the baby like decide if it turned out the baby was just a serial killer and the baby started running around with a knife and killing the parents. That'd have been
Sure.
fun.
Yeah.
I could have got into that.
Yeah.
There's one or two moments where it does kind of get fun bad, but they're very slim. It's like two things really that I kind of liked at one point. But that was pretty much it. There's like almost nothing else positive to say. It is an exercise in just everything that horror movies are right now, boiled down to their worst components.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is kind of interesting that it is such a hodgepodge of like, oh, like everything in this is like the wrong choice or like, not good. I think it's kind of funny that they managed to screw up everything.
Even the characters at the start of the movie, when it's like, okay, they're home with a new baby and the husband's leaving for work, and she's like, oh, didn't you forget something? No, I don't think I did. And then he turns around, he's like, oh, I know what I forgot, and he kisses her like several times in the face, and I'm like, I feel like it's kind of that thing that I talk about with The Room sometimes, where I'm like, and obviously I enjoy watching The Room much more than this. But I often say The Room's like a movie that was written by aliens who have watched other movies but never actually interacted with a human being, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I get some vibes of that from this, where it feels like they're trying to emulate like those opening scenes in other movies where, okay, we're introducing ourselves to the couple and the family and, why we like them, why they're likable people.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not landing, like they're just getting that wrong, where I'm like, this feels like you're trying to make me care about them, but it just, again, it feels like it's going through the motions, and it just didn't work. And instead, I'm sitting there cynically going, this feels off. The acting's not quite right. The dialogue feels kind of forced and stilted, and it's like, here's the obvious thing the cheeky husband would say to the wife, and here's what they'd say over breakfast, and I just, ugh.
I also feel like it tries to set up like this weird mythology, which is it just feels like so forced and out of nowhere. Like, when all of a sudden they're starting to talk about like this demon and why it's doing what it's doing, but I don't know, we'll get to it more in like spoilers, but it's like really weird and forced to me.
It's really underdeveloped. Like, it feels like there's just a couple of ideas that didn't really develop and just kind of threw them out there.
Yeah, and I feel like in other movies, like, you can have like a a specific demon or entity or something, but again, you have to kind of explain why it's here and why it's doing what it's doing. This is just like, hey, it's this thing. Okay, but why is it like targeting you? Why is it enveloped in your life?
I'll be honest, like, and this is not a spoiler because this does not happen, but what I was thinking during the movie is that it was like the spirit of the dead brother.
Oh, sure, yeah, that's
like,
what I thought too.
I thought, oh, so twins, one died at birth. That's going to be the thing. It's the twin spirit doing something bad. But no.
Yeah, the twin is angry because it didn't get to live, so now it's taking out its revenge. Much better, more clear, concise,
in fact,
like motive for a movie.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Does the fact that the baby was stillborn have any effect on? Obviously, there's the potential that she's just imagining all this, and the stillborn birth is actually why she's crazy and hallucinating. In which case, it does matter. But in terms of the demon side of it, where, okay, if this is real and there's a demon like trying to come after her baby, does the fact that the other kid was stillborn have any effect on that plot?
And there's like one line, again, so we should probably save it for spoilers, but
okay, sure. Well, let's give the spoiler warning because I feel like we've kind of wrapped up all the spoiler-free stuff anyway. So go on, full spoilers. So what's the line?
So there's like one line where the demon says like it basically it wants to eat her child now, and I think that it might be at the end when the husband's listening to those tapes or something, and she's like, why my baby? And the demon says, because the other one tasted so delicious.
Okay.
But it also makes me like think like, all right, does this demon eat like, is that like every baby that's stillborn? Is it because this demon ate it? Like why? There's no reason why this demon is targeting this family, is attached to this family. So I don't know. Are we just to
I mean,
assume like it eats anything?
if the rest of the movie was good, I'd be kind of okay with that. Just because it is such a unique thing, right? Because I was thinking this when she goes to therapy, I was like, this is a fairly unique thing. Like, you know, most mothers who go through this, like where they have like a baby who doesn't survive, they don't tend to have another one they get at the same time. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably a fairly. I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but I'm sure it's a relatively
Sure.
unique thing where, uh, you know, compared to like, you know, all the other births in the world, it's probably a relatively unique experience to go through the stillbirth, but then still have a baby to look after. Right? That's probably
Yeah.
not super common. Uh,
And especially when you're all set up and you have a room with two cribs and
mm,
two names and two sets of everything, like that is definitely like a very traumatic thing, and there is interesting stuff to be explored there. It just ain't getting done in this movie.
oh yeah, it's not happening here. Absolutely. So
Again, aside from like that one line, and
yeah,
maybe mentioning it a couple of times in therapy or something, there's no bearing about it to the plot whatsoever. And it's like that's the name of the movie. Like the movie like
no,
would lead you to think like, oh, okay, this is going to be huge.
I get it's just she's depressed about it, and that's what's giving her this postnatal depression.
Yeah.
But so here's the sort of stuff that I did kind of laugh. Right, so the two bright
Okay.
points I had in this movie.
Mhm.
One was later on in the film, the baby gets trapped in the bathroom with the water running, and she ends up screaming. She can't get in. She runs outside. There's a workman's truck, and she grabs an axe. So she runs back in. She starts like axing the door, and she just
Mhm.
kind of stops after like looking in through her axe hole, and she walks over to the stairs, right? But not going down to the
Mhm.
stairs itself. Like there's it's kind of stairs that turn up the way, so there's like a banister for the
Mhm.
sort of the lower half of the stairs, and she just walks up and just falls over the ledge. That made me laugh. That looked really silly. I
I
was
did,
into
yeah.
that moment, in a fun, bad way. And then the
Yeah.
other thing that I kind of liked was the running gag that because her mother's not there, but her mother keeps like calling her on Skype to like
Mhm.
see how she's doing, and the
Yeah.
father's like, oh, get your mother to come and help for a few weeks,
Mhm.
to help you out with this news because it's the young new parent, never done this before,
Yeah.
why not get help from the grandmother, uh,
Mhm.
and there becomes this running gag where she like because like technology keeps getting affected by the demon, like it's like distorting things and saying like demonic things, and it does it while she's on the Skype call and she freaks out and says,
Mhm.
get the F away from me, you evil bastard. And then
Mhm.
it cuts in like the mother's just sitting there on Skype going, honey, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Now that one was okay, but I liked it more as a running gag because later
Mhm.
on, for some reason, miraculously after one night, she seems fine again, and she's like she's been at her worst before this. She was like really
Yeah.
disgruntled, and she was like everyone was worried about her. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden she wakes up and she's like a housewife from the 50s. She's got like this 50s haircut. She's got this
That
yellow dress on.
that makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, I didn't understand. Like, okay, is she possessed at this point? But if so, like, is she possessed by the demon,
I don't know.
or is she just trying to act normal? Like,
But what I liked about it is, so obviously the husband's like freaked out. Okay, you seem fine
Mhm.
because she's making pancakes for him, and she's got this cheesy fake smile the entire time, which is why you think, okay, something's wrong here. But then she's on Skype with her mother again, and she's like, "Oh yeah, everything's kind of calmed down. I'm feeling
Mhm.
better, and everything's going well." And then the baby keeps crying. And mid conversation, she just like she's got again. Keep in mind, she has this fake cheesy smile the entire time
Mhm.
during the scene. She's always like, "Oh, everything's fine. Well, everything's fine." Baby keeps crying.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Shut the f up, Adam. Hi,
Yeah.
mom. Everything's fine. And the reaction in the mum's face cracked me up. So
Also, like,
I kind of had
that
fun
was
with
funny.
that as a running gag.
Yeah.
But I mean, but
But
of
also,
course,
it's like,
it's worth mentioning though that's not meant to be a gag. That's meant to be
oh yeah,
taken seriously, and I think it's funny. So keep that in mind. But what do you think?
yeah. Just that the mom kind of sucks. Like, just the fact that like after that you weren't on like the first plane like to come see your kid because something's obviously wrong. Like, come on.
Yeah. Actually, here's something talking about planes. I had a problem with this. So the husband, Jack, feeling that Mary's a little bit depressed early on, says, "Hey, I've got a thing. When I get back from my business trip, I'll get us some tickets to Hawaii. We'll go just a few
Oh
weeks,
yeah.
just me, you, and the baby." And maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like you shouldn't be traveling for week-long vacations on a plane with a baby that is only a week or two old.
Yeah, that seems way too young.
Yeah. I feel like, honestly, you shouldn't be traveling with a baby who's less than a year old. Like, I feel like that first
I
year,
think it's fair.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe people do this, but it felt weird to me to be like, yeah, brought him home from the hospital a week ago. Let's go to Hawaii with him. Like, no.
Yeah, like I don't think it seems. I mean, obviously, I don't have a kid. I don't, so I don't really know anything about raising them. But it seems weird to, do something like taking him on a plane. Like it seems like that'd be traumatic because the baby has no idea what's going on, and like
Honestly,
it's
Tim, it wouldn't surprise me if there's rules against it. Like, like the kid has to be at least 6 months
Yeah.
old or something like that before you're allowed to take them on a plane or something. Like, it wouldn't shock me to find that's the case.
Also, it's like you know, if you're like newly parents, you probably shouldn't be taking vacations either, though. Like you should probably be, because if you're taking a vacation, you're probably going to be going out and doing stuff. Like, do you want to just stay in the hotel room with the baby? Like, what would you want to do?
Yeah, what's going to happen on this vacation?
Yeah.
They have to be with the kid the whole time. What are they going to do? Get like a foreigner who they barely know to look after the kid?
Yeah.
Like, that's weird. Like, no. So
Now, I do want to give you an example of some good filmmaking. So there's
from another movie, I assume.
so there's a scene where she's like committed into like a hospital, which at first I thought she was like against her will, like she was like gonna be forcibly held at this hospital because she's a danger to others. And
Oh yeah, because just to put this in perspective, this was after she threw herself over the stair banister, and of course there's cameras all around the house, so he shows her the footage, and in the footage, instead of just like walking up and falling over, she actually puts a chair out and like jumps over. Which wasn't as silly as looking, but still amusing. But yeah.
So she's in the hospital, and then like the next night, she wakes up again or whatever, and now all of a sudden she's not strapped to the bed, but she thinks something's going on at the house, so she just rips out her IV and then just runs out of the hospital, and then
well, hold on a second. You've missed an important part of this scene, Tim. Because before she thinks there's something spooky going on, she's watching footage of her husband and our sexy neighbour make out, which they've clearly shown that this is all in her head. This part of it, this is the demon. If there's a demon or not, whatever. But either the demon's playing with her head or she's just imagining it. But they've clearly sort of shown, because at one point she hears it up against the bathroom wall that he's talking to someone. Oh, don't worry, she won't find out. Like, she hears that on the phone.
Yeah.
But then he comes out and she's like, "Who are you talking to?" He's like, "What are you talking about? I was in the bathroom." And she actually pats him down for the phone. And there's no phone. So unless he's doing some really like covert things with hiding a phone in the toilet seat or something, like this ain't happening. Especially since, here's the thing that really got me about this, is that she's kind of an idiot for not realizing that this must be like an hallucination, because he gave her the tablet to watch the house.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
He set up all the cameras. He knew they were there, but not only that, he gave her like when he was leaving with the kid, like, because he was kind of angry at it first, but then he's like, "Hey, here's the baby. Say bye to Adam or take him home." He hands her the tablet and says, "Hey, now you can watch us at all times." He gives her that ability. He would be such a stupid idiot to then go cheat on her. Not so weird.
You'd have to be the biggest moron in the world, but I just think it's hilarious that, all right, so she sees that, she's like, "Oh my god, I gotta get back home."
Yeah.
So, you think it would probably take some time to leave a hospital. They have security guards, they have people that check you out or whatever, but all it is her running out the door. Instantly, next scene, she's running home to her house, which I have no idea how close the hospital is to the house.
Barefoot. Wait, she's only in the scrub thing, the overall. Yeah. She's not got any footwear on or underwear or anything for that matter.
But I just like that part just really cracked me up. It's just like not even any shots of her just running on the street or anything. We're just led to believe she ran all the way from the hospital, wherever it's located, right back to the house.
Yeah. Can we bring up, there's this like weird kind of like, I don't even want to call it a subplot, but there's just this thing where they kind of imply the husband all movie, despite the fact that he's now well off, because they talk about money a lot, where, oh, now you get to live in this nice street, because the sexy neighbour's like, "Oh, hey, yeah, now you're a Stepford wife and stuff." And so, "Oh, I guess we can afford this now." But they kind of imply that despite the fact that he's now kind of well off and got a good job, that he keeps being kind of cheap. Like, when she says the baby monitor's broken, he's like, "Oh, I just bought that. Fine, I'll pick one up tomorrow." Then later on, it's after she's in hospital, she's went over the banister, she's in hospital, and despite the fact that she nearly killed their baby, despite the fact that he's obviously worried sick that she might be having a psychotic break, he pulls out the 2 tickets to Hawaii, puts them on the bed and says, "These are non-refundable, you better get better." You better get better, because these are non-refundable, honey. And I'm like, that's what you're thinking about right now?
Yeah. This guy's a real piece of work.
Do you know what it is I think we're supposed to kind of like him and be on outside of maybe suspecting that he's cheating on her. I think he's supposed to be a likable husband, but he comes across as this douchebag who only cares about money.
I feel like a more interesting movie would be like something from the husband's perspective, where like, you know, something's happening with them where they're starting to become the crazy one, or people are questioning them, because it feels like such a cliche that it's like, oh, it's always the woman, like, you know, the mother's staying at home, she's freaking out, everyone thinks she's crazy. I mean, like,
if I'm going to give it credit, and this is like minor, very minor credit, is at least, because we always have this trope where the wife sees stuff and the husband doesn't believe her until, you know, middle of the movie, right, or whatever. I'll at least give this a little bit of credit in that by installing the cameras and seeing her do this on the camera, he at least has more of a reason to think she's just going crazy.
Sure. Yeah,
than just hearing the stories that she's saying to him. So, I mean, it's a minor compliment, very minor, the minorest of minor compliments. But
and then so once they kind of start seeing this demon, which I forget the name, was like Lash 2 or something.
Oh, you remember better than I did. I only watched this last night, and you remember that better than I did.
I specifically remember because I was making a joke about it, and like I kept like bringing it up, like, ooh, that's Lamb 2 or Lamb Chop or whatever.
my thing with the ghost demon person is that it just really felt like uninspired. It felt like, okay, let's have the Japanese long-haired horror character, because the way she moved was very Grudge-esque, with the sort of the clicking and clacking, and not that you see a lot of her. She's only in a few scenes, but
I just thought it was funny. And then again, like, I think it's just such like poor storytelling to be like, there's no, like, there really is like no hint of this like at all until she visits this old lady, and all of a sudden the old lady's like, I know what's after your baby. It's this demon. And it's kind of like, when did we ever think a demon was going to be involved in this? Like, it's not like they moved in and there was like some weird markings or burial sites. Although, I almost forgot, the baby had a weird marking, which was like, I feel like goes nowhere.
Never brought up. Yeah, we see it in a scene. We see it in a photograph later, and that's it. That's the extent of that.
Yeah. But like stuff like that is just like all of a sudden like, yeah, there's a demon after your baby. It's like, oh, like there's nothing about, they never angered a demon. They never mentioned that her family was cursed. They didn't move in and find like a little wooden doll that they broke or something. Like, well, why is this thing after them all of a sudden? And why is that old person so sure? Like,
because the other baby was tasty. The other baby was tasty. That was what it was. Here's the thing. So she brings up the idea here. The old lady's like, oh, the only way to save your baby is to sacrifice another baby, right? And she starts, every time she looks across at the neighbours now, she sees their baby, and she's like, So, and here's the thing, I actually do think there's an interesting premise here, where if the movie was about, not that the demon wants to actually eat the baby, the demon's goal was more about driving her insane enough that it turns her into a killer, right? It turns her into someone who kills a baby, and that's actually what he feeds off of, right? That's an interesting premise. Now, admittedly, that doesn't work here, because it's not the demon that has that idea. It's the old lady who says that she has to sacrifice another baby. Nothing from the demon ever even implies that the demon wants her to go and kill another baby. So, of course, when she gets out of the hospital and she runs home, and we heard that there was going to be a costume party next door earlier on in the movie. She looks outside and she sees it, and she walks into the costume party, and she's going up to like the neighbor Rachel, who was at this party the whole time. She wasn't in the footage, she wasn't actually with her husband. She was just in the house next door at her party. And she comes up and goes, "Oh, you whore, you bitch, you where's my husband, where's my baby?"
Sorry. I just want to back up like a second here. So she's running through this costume party, And at one point, like, people are turning around and looking at her, and like someone goes like, "Sick costume," and she's just wearing a hospital gown. Like, that's that's not a great costume.
Yeah, what did you come as? I came as a car crash
Yeah.
survivor. I don't know. So she goes inside with her, and clearly at this point, like Rachel's spoke, has been speaking to the husband in a friendly way, and like knows that she's having some issues, so she kind of understands. Instead of getting angry at her that she's been accused of it, and she actually quite reasonably says, "Let's go inside and talk about this," and tries to just talk her down. And again, Mary keeps shouting, "Where's my husband? You're doing this stuff with him," and she's like, "Hey, no, your son's fine, your husband's fine." She's like, "They're away to pick up your mother at the airport," which we knew she was coming. We'd heard this already in the movie that the mother was coming in to help, and she doesn't believe her, and she's almost talked down. And then, of course, there's all the demon noises. There's, she hears the baby crying or whatever, because she's like, "Hey, let me go outside and try and get a hold of whatever. You stay right here, and I'll come back." And it's when she's left on her own, Mary hears Rachel's kid crying, so she goes up and gets the baby, and then like Rachel comes in with her two, like her husband and like the cop friend. Like, by the way, for some reason, after like a window gets smashed, like in the middle of the movie, the demon, if there is a demon, smashes a window. So she calls the police, and the detective who comes to speak to her happens to be a neighbor on the street, which is completely irrelevant apart from the fact that he's at this party later on.
I kept getting confused because I didn't know who was supposed to be the neighbor's husband.
Which one was the detective? Yeah, I agree, because
like, it doesn't matter, but it just seems weird because I was like, wait, who's who?
They both had very similar kind of beards and hairstyles. It was kind of hard to tell. I think the one who was dressed as the fireman was her husband, and then the other one was the detective. And I know that because the detective's the one who has the gun later on. But I thought when they set up there was a detective living on the street that she would go to him for help like a couple of times, or go and chap his door, and it never happens.
So, man, we got to talk about this end scene. It is, I don't know what they're trying to go for, but it is so insane that, like, she gets the baby and she's gonna make a sacrifice and stuff, but like she's in this locked room, and I'm not sure why they want this kind of like look or effect for it, but you just see like all the people are trying to get inside, but they're all in costume and it's all foggy in the background, and it kind of
for some reason there's like a fog machine really pumped up to max, and it's like they're all standing in the mist at the window. It's weird. I don't know why.
But it makes it seem like they're trying to do like I don't know, like it almost looks like Night of the Living Dead or something.
Yeah.
Like where you have like zombies trying to break in.
But instead, this is all the normal people, like, and it's the mother like banging on the window screaming, "Please don't hurt my baby!" Like that's what's happening. And she gets her husband on the phone. Gets Jack on the phone. It's like, "Here, like, listen to him. He's there with your mother." And like Jack's trying to talk her down. Her mom's trying to talk her down. They hear the baby, and it's kind of working. Like she's putting the knife down, and then of course, like the whole movie, we hear the demon voice come through the phone from her perspective, and then she goes to stab the baby, and the cop shoots her through the window. And I thought maybe shoot her in the shoulder, but no, he shoots her right in the chest, and it kills her. Just an idea. I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows?
Hey-o. So she's dead. Like, and I'm like, if the entire movie was about trying to convince this woman to become a killer of like babies, that could be an interesting premise, but it doesn't focus on that. That's just kind of what it becomes in the last like 15 minutes.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I don't even like, and then we get our final scene is like Jack's on his own, and he finds the box of research that she had from the old woman, and he listens to the recordings of her, of Mary talking to the demon, right? And he hears the demon come back with, what you said, but the child was so tasty, and he looks kind of concerned. Right.
No, what I don't get is because we see her making these recordings earlier, but you don't hear what's on the tape. But like, why didn't she show these to him earlier? Like, if it's like, oh, I got definitive proof of a demon on tape, maybe I'll wait.
Well, here's the thing. See if it's not real. See if she's imagining all this. They actually set this up early on. See when he's first on a Skype call with her, and she's in the and he's in the hotel room for the first time.
All right.
And they're on the Skype call. She actually does this little demonic voice as a joke. She has like Adam, and she puts the camera on the baby, and she goes, I'm coming to get you, Jack.
Yeah.
You know, like, and she does this
Mhm.
demonic voice, and I think it's basically the same voice as the demon. And
Oh, okay.
I think the reason why they set that up is that here at the end, like, he doesn't know, is this a real demon or is this her just doing
Mhm.
her demon voice at the end? Like, was she
Uh,
schizophrenic? Right?
mm,
And
okay.
then he gets really concerned, and he
Mhm.
comes up the house. Which, by the way, they set up at the start of the movie that if you step on the second step, it turns the light on.
Oh, right.
Did that ever come into play in any way
Uh,
in the rest of the movie?
I think they were saying like later on, like when that light would come on, you know that the demon's coming, but um, again, it feels like there's no point to it though, because the demon like rarely shows up, and then you know when it does, like you get more. It's more because you're hearing the voice or seeing it on the baby monitor. You don't
Yeah,
need the light.
I never remembered it really coming up prominently again in the movie. I'm just remembering they set that up.
Yeah.
But he comes into the room, he looks down into the crib,
Mm.
and we end the movie on his reaction shot, which is very ambiguous. It's like, is the baby there or is the baby not there? Is it fine? Is it not? It cuts to
Stupid.
the title. Cuts to the title, and live music plays.
Like he's like something's clearly wrong because he's like screaming. He's like Adam, but then yeah, it's like okay, so does that mean he's dead or that he's not there or
Yeah, well, he
that
doesn't
he's
say
speaking to
anything
him?
in the final shot. He says, he says, hey Adam, are you okay? As he's going up, I think. But the final shot, it's just like a sort of gasp, or not even a gasp.
Oh, okay.
It's like a
Yeah.
sigh or whatever, and it's like it plays it like it could be seeing something bad, or he could just be seeing his baby lying there. We don't know. It actually leaves it ambiguous as to whether or not any of this was real, or if this was. And I feel like it works so hard to make it possible that it's all fake, that it's all just in her head, that you kind of come down on that side because, like, there's nothing to us. Like, I think early on in the film, you're like, oh, it's a horror movie, so obviously it's real, right?
Yeah.
But by the time you get to the end, it's like, well, I mean,
Uh,
honestly, they gave me
I don't
enough to think it probably was just fake.
know. It's not really well done where you want to spend time thinking about it. Like if
No, you
it
don't.
like I mean maybe that's what they want you to like they want you to kind of question about it and think about it, but it's just such a mess. You just want it out of your brain as quickly as possible.
That is an accurate description of this film, Tim.
And just going back to again just nothing really being original, like even this like last scene like reminded me of like something out of Saw or something where everything's done, we're all calm now, and then he gets back, but like, oh, what's
Oh
this,
yeah,
like tapes and
when he starts playing the tape, you could almost hear the dun dun
yeah.
dun 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 dun.
It's like wait, what? Like it's just it's everything just feels like it's just cribbed from other movies.
And of course, just the music's got a lot of loud bangs and stuff to make the jump scares work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little bullshit scares where she sees like the eyes of the demon through the grate, or she turns round and the second empty crib has a pool of blood in it, or something like that.
That was really bad.
Yeah, like it's just all these stupid little scares that are there to be like, hey, it's a horror movie. In fact, here's another thing. There's a scene where like Jack takes the baby out to the park, and he's like, oh, I'll go get you some coffee and stuff, and she sits down to read, and he comes back. And she's like, "Hey, did you forget something?" He's like, "What are you talking about? I've been gone for 2 hours."
Oh
So
yeah.
they set up that she's losing time, which I guess is maybe there to explain that she could be doing all this evil shit as well. But it never feels like it's like they bring it up again, or it actually relates to anything. It's just kind of there.
Yeah, that oh, that's why like I really kind of wonder like where it fell apart, if this was like a script thing or a shooting thing, because it feels like there's so much stuff that they're trying to set up or imply that just doesn't pay off or isn't really clear. So I don't know.
I think it's both. I feel like this was a bad script, and then
Mhm.
you have a director who's serviceable. I don't like, but certainly not good enough to get better performances out of his actors or do anything original with the scenes.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons why I originally wanted to watch this is because I watched the trailer and I thought it looked decent enough, but I think it's from the director that did I think it's Grave Encounters. But
I am fact checking this right now.
Okay.
Brandon Christensen. There is no Grave Encounters on here.
Okay, is there something with?
In fact, this is his first movie.
Is it? Maybe it's
Yeah,
like a writer or something, or maybe I'm thinking of a different trailer. Uh,
bunch of short films and a TV
mhm.
miniseries, and then this. No, no other
Oh,
movies.
okay. Well, for some reason, I thought it was from the guy that did Grave Encounters, which was a movie that I liked. Um, so
I love the idea that you watched this movie based on wrong information.
I must have been watching like a trailer for something else then. But yeah, that's a shame because this was pretty bad.
Yeah, this was pretty bad.
Yeah,
This is, this will count as a 2018 movie when we're doing our list at the end of the year, and I feel like
good.
on that worst 10 list, I feel like
Yeah.
this might be cropping up in there.
Oh,
Uh,
I mean, if it doesn't make its way on there, I'm
you're worried about
it's
what's
gonna be a bad year.
yeah, we're worried about what else is coming this year. Uh, but hey, not as bad as the Bye Bye Man. I'll give it that.
Sure, I
I'll give it that
guess
much.
that's fair.
Um, I guess we'll rate the movie then. Tim. I think
Sure.
we're done. It's a piece of shit. Let's
Yeah.
rate this bitch. Tim.
I I feel like 2.5.
Oh, oh.
I was debating between that and a 3, but I'm like, I can't think of much I like that would give it up to that coveted 3 spot.
Uh, I do feel like a 2 is maybe just going a touch too low. Just because it looks like a movie and it sounds like a
True.
movie.
Yeah.
At least technically it's there
Mhm.
in that sense. The absolute basics. And I can't say it's as like it's really boring to watch, but it's not one that I'm angry about as much as say Bye Bye Man or
Sure.
I don't know. It's funny, it's really weird to compare it to the first Annabelle because it feels like because Annabelle was a really shitty movie, and this feels like it's almost the same, just a little bit worse.
Mhm.
So
But like, I mean, I feel like something like Annabelle. I feel like, while not a good movie, it still had more of like a clear direction and like
I don't know if I
I
agree with
would
that.
much more than this movie for sure. I think.
Yeah, the movie that was meant to be about the creepy doll and then was not actually about the creepy doll for like 90% of it.
Well, I mean, I think that's more of a like, kind of like marketing and stuff, kind of lying to you and making you think it's going to be about that. But I think when you sit
Well,
down
no,
and watch a movie,
I wouldn't say it's marketing, Tim. I'd say it's a fundamental problem at the development level where they said,
sure,
let's make a movie based on this doll, but then decided to just do a movie about a demon instead.
sure, yeah. But I feel like when you sit down and watch it, like I didn't really have any questions about the plot. Like, I wasn't, kind of going like, oh, I was confused by this part or that part, or that didn't make sense. Where I feel like this like had like more fundamental stuff that
Yeah,
was like not clear.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I don't want to defend Annabelle. It's not a good movie.
What did I give Annabelle? I feel like I gave Annabelle like a 3. So
Mhm.
2.5 for this sounds about right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5. Yeah, 2.5. We'll go with it. Go with it. 2.5. That is stillborn. Yes, so you can find that on your so on Shudder. That's
Yep.
where we watched it. The horror streaming service, if you're unfamiliar with it. But that is not that you'd want to watch it anyway. Why would you? After listening to this, why would you want to go watch this? I don't know why, but
Yeah.
that is stillborn. So that has been Screams After Midnight. This has been an extra episode to make up for the absence of one last week. Um, yes. So, by all means, let us know what you thought of this movie if you've happened to seen it. Go to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and check out some of the bonuses over there. You can support the show. You also get a handy list of all the different audio feeds and all the different shows we do. It's also worth mentioning. I usually plug the vote. I'll plug the crypt here. The crypt is a list of movies that are submitted by our patrons at the $5 tier. It's kind of a to watch list, if you will, of movies submitted by our fans, and we occasionally pick one from the list to do, or sometimes we'll put 4 of them into the vote for Patreon to vote on. So, well worth checking that out and having a look.
Make sure you go cross off Stillborn on the list.
Yes. We don't need Stillborn recommended to us. We've suffered through it enough. Thank you very much. So yeah, you will get an episode next week, of course, and more beyond that. We have plans. We have lots of plans. So this has been Screams After Midnight. So yeah, all the ways you can support us, obviously, like, subscribe, all the usual stuff, comment, blah 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 blah. That's it. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we'll see you next time.